Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking about Stellar Lumen's XLM from a technical analysis perspective, more specifically from an Elliott Wave Theory perspective. But before we begin, I would like to kindly, once again, remind you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more of these altcoin video updates, and also leave a comment below if you are personally in XLM. Now, XLM has been a hot topic of discussion these days because XLM is directly tied to XRP, in my opinion. Well, I think everyone knows at this point, and it's heavily beloved by the XR community as well, and arguably follows the same exact footpath in terms of the price action. Well, it kind of has to because it basically has the same fine print fundamentally when it comes to the actual behind the scenes. But fundamentals aside, let's see what potential targets may be on the horizon for those of you looking at XLM on terms of when you are trying to exit. We're going to talk about some targets for this bull run, and I'll try to remain as unbiased as possible. But before we begin, let's rewind for a second because I think I've only done one video on XLM in the past, which was about a year ago. So let's go back to that video and see what we can get out of that and see if my vision has changed. So as you can see, nothing really has changed other than the overall structure, but what we identified was a nested 1-2 structure when using 3 hierarchy degrees starting from the cycle degree. As you can see by the green, the color coding has changed since then, and the idea does still seem to live on as we identified a potential bottom here. This was where we were accumulating for a little bit, and then we got that massive breakout to the upside that we're currently witnessing since the December pump. However, the way that things are developing in the price action and where we currently sit with Bitcoin, I've been eyeing a different structure that helps us give us a bit more of a conservative approach, since this idea, this 1-2-1-2 idea, is in fact a little too bullish in my opinion. Even though the wave theory may provide us sensible targets with a proper look in the beginning stage, which we did identify at the beginning, expectations often do fail far more for more ambitious scenarios like this 1-2-1-2 scenario. So it's important to fall back on a more conservative pattern when using the wave theory to help mitigate any risk. Now, that's just me, but it has worked out for me in the past where I might have seen too blindly to the upside, where I might see these potential targets that may just be too ambitious. So with that being said, what could be a logical alternative scenario to this? Well, we have a potential triangle pattern here in the making, and it probably makes the most sense here because XLM directly relates to XRP's price action. We identified what was known as a contracting triangle, where we saw a larger A, B, C, D, E triangle, and then we were anticipating a breakout pattern. This is more of a continuation pattern, and you create this contracting look. Now, you don't have to be versed in the Elliott Wave Theory. You can identify these triangle patterns quite easily, and I think even the general markets were looking at this. Now, it's a little bit harder to identify for XLM, depending on where you have your trend lines adjusted, but this seems to be the more logical approach that gives us a little bit better approach in terms of where we can have possible targets. Now, just because I changed it to the triangle scenario, it doesn't mean that it's particularly less bullish. It just gives us a more clear target, like I said. There's no better answer between assuming a 1-2-1-2 versus a triangle breakout. It really depends on the market context, the wave structure clarity more than anything else, and of course the momentum and volume. So since XRP is also drawn better as a triangle, which we've been talking about for the past year, the triangle assumption could also be more or less safely assumed for XLM as well. And this is happening because market was sideways for XLM as well. And we also saw overlapping and arguably great symmetry and choppy price action for these internal waves. So time was passing with no major highs, volume dried up. So this logically put XRP and XLM into the same type of contractive pattern and not an impulsive pattern on the macros. So even though this idea still lives on, it's just better to kind of tie these two together, these two assets, that is XRP and XLM, into the same kind of category. And I think the triangle fits better here. So because of this, although we made the perfect assumption that a breakout was happening for this 1-2-1-2 scenario, we can now go in hindsight and mitigate any forced counts or any ambitious counts like that 1-2-1-2 idea. Now, mind mind you, both of these scenarios, we are still in the validation stage as long as we are in the trending market, which we are. As you can see, everything is still more or less leading towards us to the upside. And in that case, it could still easily fall back into the more bullish 1-2-1-2 scenario that we had in the beginning. But for now, this idea just seems to be the most logical approach. Now, we have to zoom in and talk about where these targets are. Now, remember, this is a breakout pattern. This is either labeled within a wave 4, B, or a wave X, some kind of transitional wave of some sort, other than a wave 2. And right now, this just seems like this is in a wave 3 or a wave A or a wave 4 and a wave B. So that put us a very, very nice structure for this triangle to be played out. And this breakout here, now, it played out a little bit differently with XRP because XRP actually created a clean 5-way structure to move to the upside. Now, we can force a possible wave 4 in here, have this adjusted and have this labeled here. But this also gives us, a potential target of with a 1-2, a very large wave 4 and a possible 5-way move for this final 5th wave as well. So arguably, as we've been discussing for the past months, with Bitcoin also being in a 5th wave, XRP being in a 5th wave, and XLM is also portraying that possibility that it may be in a 5th wave as well. So in terms of the actual adjustments, if we're going to say that this is going to be a far more bullish count, we can label this as a highly extended wave 5 and also put this into the same position as XRP, which we are seeing as a wave 1-2 of a higher degree. This would be a far more bullish structure, and that could give us that one more leg to the upside and increase the degree pattern and create this higher degree wave 3-4, where we're assuming that instead of just creating a 5-way move up and having it end here, we can create one more higher degree of this wave 1-2, 3, 4, and then 5, which would give us a higher target of around $5 to $6 for this entire target. So this is why, at a very minimum, even if we're going with the most conservative target of making sure that we adjust this 3-4, if we're looking at some potential targets, even from these levels alone, I'm seeing, a good 2 to 3x on XLM alone. And if we're going for that more bullish target that I just talked about, around $5 to $6, even from these levels alone, could give us a 10x gain on that as well, depending on how strong this bullish market goes. So that's my overall targets, ladies and gentlemen. There's really 3 zones, or 2 zones that is, that we want to be looking for. This zone here around the $1 to $2 regions, this would be the more conservative, logical approach if we're saying that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we just say that XLM is working in a smaller type of fifth wave to the upside, or we say that it's in the exact same position as XRP and just say that we're working for that wave 1 that's just completed here, wave 2, and then this is now the extension of a wave 3, get a pullback. This here now is going to be that wave 4, and we're working for a 5th wave here, and that will be that $5 target. So hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. Again, XRP and XLM is essentially the same idea, which is kind of primarily the reason why I didn't really even do an update on XLM, but it is a perfect follow-up because if you look at this move here, just look at the difference. Like, I'm comparing the two, where this is exactly that bottom that we're looking for. Look at that beautiful follow-up, 600%, right? And, this is why we use the Elliott Wave Theory to our advantage at the beginning stage of these accumulation phases. And if you're talented enough, not just identifying the wave counts, but also making sure to identify market psychology patterns, see what the traders are doing, what these investors are doing, smart investors, these accumulation patterns are the key drivers to creating what could be the next mega, profit run that a lot of people are missing out, and they're calling this a stable coin or, some kind of shit coin or whatever it is. Those the coins that you want to be looking for, the most boring phases. So maybe in the next bull market cycle, because arguably you did miss out on quite a strong run. I don't see it coming back down here where you might get that opportunity to build up more XLM. But because of that, maybe you can learn a thing or two from this current bull market, and then you can apply it to the next bull market and look for or identify these boring coins. Because as the markets are maturing now, these are the coins that you want to be looking for. And this is one lesson that I learned from the 2018 bull market, that as we were creating higher lows, it doesn't take a monkey to know that, but higher lows consistently over a period of 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 years is indicating that smart money is accumulating XLM or XRP or whatever coin that you may be looking at. So what other coins there might be? If you would like to see my next coin that has another potential of going to a 5 to 10x, hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the channel. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much. I will see you guys in the next video, hopefully at higher levels. Bye-bye.